Cardano is like a preseason sports team that spent several years collecting all the right players for each position to make the perfect team before it actually embarks on its title run. Now we look around and realize we have a low energy consensus mechanism, block validation that's much more decentralized than competitors, big throughput and scaling gains coming via input endorsers, pipelining, and the three big SIPs just in June, cheap deterministic fees, higher security in our smart contracts due to functional programming, and hundreds of projects launching this year. It feels good that all the preparation is behind us, and 2022 is the year we're finally going to get out to take the field for real. Ready? Let's go. This was a very busy weekend, and we've got a large number of news items to discuss today, including some thoughts from Senators Lummis and Gillibrand on crypto regulation, an awesome new Cardano dashboard, some cool news from Pavia, big new features from MuesliSwap, really big actually, projections on a Djed launch date, an ErgoDex testnet date, an interesting proposal to keep staking fair, and some sobering news on the state of NFTs. If you find that these videos are bringing you value each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies StakePool, ticker AOS. I like to keep my finger on the regulatory pulse around here. So here was a little talk from Politico and Grayscale with Senators Lummis of Wyoming and Gillibrand of New York. They're co-sponsoring a bill that's meant to be an overarching regulatory framework for crypto, which I like because if you follow this channel, you know that Senator Lummis is a huge ally of crypto. This talk was interesting. I sort of I was hoping they would go into more detail on what's actually in their bill. That they didn't really do. They did give us some predictable details, like they're going to sort of split jurisdiction in their bill, they'll split jurisdiction between the CFTC and the SEC. Pretty predictable because CFTC has commodities, SEC has securities, and of course, there'll be a million other agencies in the mix there. They didn't give us much detail beyond that. They just sort of talked about crypto regulation generally. But I thought one of the most interesting parts came at 39 minutes and 45 seconds, when they asked Senator Gillibrand a question about energy consumption in crypto. And she was pretty quick to go to proof of stake. Of course, the question was framed in terms of the energy consumption of Bitcoin. She was pretty quick to point out that proof of stake was a thing too, and that incentives could be created, benefits could be created to incentivize the movement toward proof of stake. And I think this is also a predictable legislative position, regulatory position. You can imagine pro-crypto legislators or even pro-crypto regulators. One of the first challenges that's going to be put in front of them by people who are kind of anti-crypto, or let's just say not pro-crypto, is going to be the energy consumption thing. And the obvious defense is saying, hey, proof of stake. And then they have to ask, yeah, but the biggest blockchains, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are both proof of work. And of course, legislators and regulators are going to immediately go to, yeah, but we can create benefits for proof of stake that will push the entire crypto industry toward proof of stake. This is pretty fantastic for Cardano because we're already there. Bitcoin, I think we can imagine Bitcoin never going to proof of stake, maybe only way down the line, but probably never. Ethereum is supposed to go to proof of stake with the merge between the main chain and the beacon chain to Ethereum 2.0. But as we've discussed ad nauseum on this channel, no one actually knows when that's really going to happen. Cardano, on the other hand, we're already there. This is all just baseless speculation. We're just exploring an idea here, but can you imagine a future where a special tax is placed on proof of work blockchains that proof of stake blockchains are exempted from? What does that landscape look like? I think it looks really good for Cardano. Senator Gillibrand, I think her name's actually pronounced Gillibrand, but Senator Gillibrand even related an anecdote about I believe it was a Bitcoin mining operation, but definitely proof of work mining operation in upstate New York, which of course is her state that she represents in the US Senate. An operation in upstate New York was dumping hot water from their operations. Obviously, they're like cooling their mining rigs, and they were dumping the hot water into the Finger Lakes of upstate New York. And there was a huge amount of uproar from locals over the repercussions to the ecosystem. I think it's pretty interesting because in the crypto space, we don't think about the way that policy concerns actually do bubble up to lawmakers. And this kind of weird environmental repercussion of proof of work is one of those ways. When she's getting calls from constituents about actual damage to a specific ecosystem like the Finger Lakes, pretty hard for her to not embrace proof of stake. Check out this new Cardano dashboard from coindodo.io. You've got all the price information. You've got all the videos from Charles and IOHK. You've got an epic counter, GitHub commits, TVL, the rich list, recent Cardano videos. This is quite a little one-page repository of a lot of different Cardano information. So thank you to coindodo.io for producing this. We've got some good metaverse news. Pavia posted this. 4 of the Pavia.io team testing multiplayer and voice chat on a Friday afternoon with Ready Player Me avatars, Pavia test environment. And check out these screenshots. Looks good. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I want us to be able to go in there with our little avatars, whatever you want to look like. Whether it actually looks like you or looks completely different from you, nobody will care. But the great part is they're talking about actual voice chat. This is what I'm hoping for, that someday we can go into one of the Cardano metaverses. The entire army of spies gets together. Maybe we're having a few drinks on a Friday night and we can all sit around and talk about Cardano. Looks like Pavia is well on the way toward that destination. This was also a huge weekend for MuesliSwap. They debuted what they're calling a quick swap tool, but this is a DEX aggregator. They say decentralization at its best, trade over MuesliSwap and always get the best price from whichever DEX on the Cardano blockchain. In QuickSwap, we find the cheapest prices on Cardano for you by aggregating all DEX protocols. You can simply open our multi-protocol trading page, select the tokens you want to swap, and our aggregator will take care of the rest. You can always see the protocol, which currently offers the best price, as well as the estimated swap price and associated fees. The tool looks like this. You can see you can select whatever asset you want, and it'll tell you which protocol it's selecting as the best priced protocol for that asset pair. This is a pretty big deal for someone in the Cardano ecosystem to already have DEX aggregation live. I think this is a pretty big step forward. I haven't used this. I don't know how well it works or anything like this, but I think it's a pretty big milestone. Congratulations to MuesliSwap on this. Don't forget, full disclosure, I own some MuesliSwap tokens. I also own some Pavia parcels, but MuesliSwap explained how their yield farming is going to work by introducing this Muesli yield token. So the way this is going to work is explained by this infographic. It looks like you will stake your LP tokens that you would earn by being a liquidity provider on one of their liquidity pools. So you'd stake your LP tokens to earn these Muesli yield tokens. You would stake those for 100. You would stake 100 Muesli yield tokens for 30 days, and then you would get one milk call option. This would be, if I'm understanding everything correctly, an option to purchase a milk token for 1 ADA. This is the first time that I know of that anybody's provided farming for options in the Cardano ecosystem. It's interesting, though. You can see how the Cardano DeFi ecosystem is just going to get more and more and more complicated. What I can't wait for is the introduction of brand new things that are only made possible by our EUTXO architecture. I think at first we're going to get a lot of interesting things, but it's going to get really interesting when we start getting things that are only possible with the EUTXO architecture. This does answer some questions, though. I was curious how the yield farming was going to work on MuesliSwap, and this is a big piece to answering that whole puzzle. Down here in the tokenomics section, they give us some interesting information, and they also tell us that these MuesliSwap yield tokens will apply to both the Milkomeda DEX and the Cardano mainnet DEX, with 30%, it looks like, the tokens going to the Milkomeda DEX, and 70%, the vast majority, going to the Cardano mainnet DEX, although they do include this little parenthetical subject to change. If you missed the recent Charles AMA from Dubai, here is one important and interesting detail. Someone asked Charles, and you can tell it's pretty grainy. He explained he was on the hotel Wi-Fi, and he didn't really have any other bandwidth options. But somebody asked, "Hey Charles, when Djed?" And Charles said at this point he thought it looked like we'd probably get Djed in the second half of 2022. So if you were expecting an imminent launch of Djed, it sounds like that won't be the case, and that we'll only get that in the second half of the year, at least according to Charles's projections. Here's some news for you Ergo fans. ErgoDex announced, "We are excited for everyone to try out ErgoDex on Cardano Testnet on the 4th of April. So far, we have only showed light mode, but dark mode is even better. I very much appreciate the dark mode from any project ever, pretty much only using dark mode." For those of you who maybe aren't Ergo people, who might be a little bit confused, like, wait a second, ErgoDex is launching on the Cardano testnet. Isn't ErgoDex going to be on Ergo? If we hover over their profile right here, we can see ErgoDex, the first EUTXO cross-chain DEX on both Ergo and Cardano. If you wanted a pretty comprehensive walkthrough of all of the StakePool parameter issues, this video from Cardano Live might be exactly the thing for you. This is an interview with Dr. Michael Liesenfeld, who has a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in nuclear engineering, and he is obsessed with StakePool parameters. Lucky for us and our ecosystem, we're the beneficiaries of that obsession. This is a pretty good walkthrough of a bunch of different issues with the StakePool parameters, but he lays out a proposal. He's created a little bit of a SIP for his proposal to revamp the parameters. Basically, he's identified a problem where there is a very different reward scheme for these whale pools, like the ones we recently saw introduced, where suddenly we had 23 pools related to Coinbase pop up, and they were all 100% pledged at 64 million or whatever the number was. I think we covered it on the channel, but I believe it was each one had two wallets of like 32 million and change or something like that. There's a problem with the reward scheme where those pools are going to earn a little bit of a bonus on top of what all the other pools are going to earn. I won't go into the details of that. I'll let you watch this video if you're interested. But he has a revamped StakePool parameter regime, which he thinks solves that particular issue and maybe provides for a more decentralized StakePool ecosystem in general. Check out this video if you haven't seen it and you're interested in these kinds of issues. Finally, here's an article from Bloomberg that a lot of people aren't going to want to see. To be honest, though, this is kind of what I've been expecting since the beginning of the NFT boom. Why? Because much like some of the people cited in this article, I lived through the ICO boom and bust in 2017, 2018. And this is kind of exactly what I've always feared about the NFT boom. So this article is entitled NFT Collection Failures Begin to Mount in Flashback to ICO Bust. Here's the gist of it. This blockchain analytics firm, Nansen, researched 8,400 collections, NFT collections, 19.3 million individual NFTs. And granted, it was just on the Ethereum blockchain, but that's the biggest blockchain as far as NFTs go. So it makes sense it would analyze Ethereum NFTs and not have to worry about analyzing across different blockchains. But their findings are this. On average, 1 in 3 NFT collections has essentially expired with little or no trading activity. Another third are trading below the amount it cost issuers to mint the tokens. So we've got 2/3, according to this article, they're saying 2/3. And I actually expected this to say, this second third, I expected to say below the amount it cost users to mint the tokens. But they're basically saying 2/3 of NFT collections are now trading below the amount it cost issuers to mint the tokens. This is very reminiscent of the ICO boom and bust. They go on to quote Whale Shark, who they identify as someone who is thought to be one of the largest NFT holders in the world. He says, the semblance is uncanny, apparently in reference to the ICO boom and bust. Money is flowing too fast and too ignorant, I think he means ignorantly, into the space. The article cites pretty interesting volume data. They say the 30-day sales volume is down 40% from the prior month, according to Nansen, while trading volume on OpenSea is down 67% in the last 30 days. And then they try to give us some opposing viewpoints on this issue. Gautier Zuppinger, co-founder of the non-fungible markets data platform, says, we are at a stage of stabilization of the NFT market after the crazy peaks of last year. But then we have the aforementioned Whale Shark saying, in the current market, it's a pump and dump cycle among PFPs, profile pick NFTs, which is why this is leading to a decrease in the market. And then he gets even a little bit more pejorative. He says, not enough new money coming in to support PFP projects, similar to a pyramid scheme. Obviously, not what you want to hear if you are thinking of PFP NFTs. I know some of you are probably jumping out of your chairs right now because you want to talk all about your mad gains you made flipping CNFT PFPs, but it looks like, according to this Nansen research, at least on the Ethereum blockchain, things might be changing. Hope everybody is starting out a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.